Welcome to Family Life Perspectives. This is Dr. Harry Broomfield, Director at Perspectives Counseling Centers, and your host this week on Family Life Perspectives. Thank you for joining us. If you had the opportunity to tune in yesterday, I'm sure you're here again listening today. We have in the studio with us Dr. William Guy, PhD, MD, staff psychiatrist at Perspectives Counseling Centers, and he stumbled upon a medical news article that caught his attention, and he feels very strongly about this being in the medical community and news, to the point that he wanted to share with our listening audience anyway, that there's just some ill-given information out there that's probably getting passed along. Dr. Guy, could you introduce what you were started yesterday and bring us up to date?
Sure. It's about the article that was published in Pediatrics, August 2012. And in the article, Tracy Afifi, the author, posits that harsh physical punishment, including spanking, causes increased risk of mental illness, substance abuse, and personality disorders in children. The increased risk is 5 to 7%, so not real high, but still an effect. The problem that we discussed yesterday was that in the study she excluded everybody that actually got spanked, and she compared the group, the 19,000 or so that were never touched in any way, compared to about 1,300 people who were shoved, slapped, and smacked, or pushed in some way. Okay, and then that's where she came out with those figures. Now, the problem is that it's an invalid study in many respects. You can't say that even that punishment caused those disorders, because there are other factors that go along with it. In my family, the brother that received the most harsh discipline was also the brother who did the most crimes. Okay, all right. I'm not going to name names here, but he knows who he is. He knows who he is. We couldn't believe some of the stuff he tried to do. What do you say? Right. And so you got to say that the behavior that you don't know, is it the discipline or is it the behavior that contributes to the later problems? Right. And so that's something we touched on yesterday. I think in talking about the subject, I'm not saying that I believe that all children need to be spanked for every reason for ages 0 to 18. I am not saying that at all. I think that certainly you need to use some common sense, and certainly there needs to be some restriction. I think below 18 months, probably not a good idea to spank, and I think beyond 10, you're kind of losing it there as well. Right. I mean, there's a window of time. And I don't think all kids need to be spanked either. Okay, yes. We'll get into this later. But, if you have a strong-willed child who is very willful, who says, you know what, my will be done, and if you don't want to do things my way, then I'm going to make your life, if you got something like that on your hands, you need to take some action that's going to mean something. Okay? You got to think, if you have a child with a strong will, and we'll talk about what that is later this week, but if you have a strong-willed child who has decided to be defiant and tell you and put you in your place. Some of the things that you see now in terms of your friends' kids, your nieces and nephews, maybe even your own kids, people will tell you, and I think all of us who are older know that there has been a difference. That as youngsters, we had a lot more respect for our elders, especially for our parents, than children generally do now. It's quite a bit more, I think, and that seems to be a consensus.
And you would say that as suggesting that because corporal punishment, genuine, appropriate spanking and or calm discipline by a parent, physical discipline, has decreased. Is that what you're saying?
I say that's a big factor. That's one factor that I think does play a big role. Compliant children really want their parents' approval a lot, so much so that if you just give a harsh look or a corrective word to a compliant child, they will fall in line, and you won't have that problem. I mean, many children are like that. Yes. Of the children that I've raised, I've seen the gamut. Yes. You have compliant children, and you have strong-willed child. Yes. Having a strong will isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. because a strong will can be a great asset in the future. It's part of being a good leader.
Yes.
You need a strong will is a good thing.
Yes.
But when it exerts its head early, as a child wants to take over the family, then that's when the parent has to really be firm and remind the child, no, you're not the boss of us. You really need to, there are things you need to learn, and the parent has a responsibility to help program that child with a morality that is going to help lead to that child's success.
Or there's failure as a parent there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, as when you first had your children, did you have any goals in mind?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What kind of things did you want for them?
I wanted them to become good as quantified by our moral system, our values,
Okay.
to grow up to be productive, with good boundaries, respectful of community, involved in community, and giving back as a person that's part of this community they reside in, and with a strong spiritual awareness.
Absolutely. Those are all very good things. And what that all speaks to is we want them fulfilled.
Yes.
We want them to experience fulfillment. We want them to be resilient. By resilient, it means when they're going to experience pain and loss and some shame as they go through life. That is normal. They're going to experience some losses and disappointments. We want them resilient so they can bounce back, so they can learn from the losses.
Yes.
All right? We want them to experience enough of the good things in life so that they will experience fulfillment. And by the good things, I'm not talking about games and TV shows.
No.
By good things, I mean enough love and belonging. Yes, I love my children, but I want other people to like them too. Okay?
Right, exactly.
So when they leave home, I want their character to be such that they don't drive people away. Okay?
Right, exactly.
And so, yes. I help prepare them so that they can experience sufficient love and belonging, so that they can be with others and have a sense of community and belonging, because people have affection for them.
Yes.
Okay? Number one, love and belonging. Number two, purpose.
Yes.
I do want them to live up to their potential. I realize that nobody does their best. I mean, I certainly have not. I'm too lazy to do my best. I mean, and to be honest, nobody really does their best unless you're really an extraordinary person. Probably Jesus did, but nobody else. Okay, I don't do my best, but I want them to get up there and to almost get there. I mean, to approach their best if they can. Okay, I mean, to me, we don't want to be tyrants about it, but we do want them to get as close to their potential as we can help them get.
Yes.
Okay, and that means that will help them get a job or a career that will be fulfilling. We want them to not be unemployed when they grow up, but to get out of bed and know they have a place to go and something to do. Okay, something they enjoy even. Okay, so that's where we try to maximize their potential there. So that's purpose with a little p in a sense. Purpose with a big P. We want them to have a relationship with God.
Yes.
Okay, we want them to know God like we do as Christians.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
what we want.
Right.
We want God to be their best friend. All right. Now the thing is this: the relationship that you have with your parents, the respect that you have with your parents, that is such a primary relationship that the building blocks in your head for that respect, for that foundational respect, that get transferred to God. If you don't have that, it's going to be harder. Okay.
It's how we see it's like a practice run in our relationship with God. Hold your thought there, Dr.
Sure.
Guy. We need to get a word from our sponsor. When we come back, pick it up again. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Family Life Perspectives. Dr. Guy and Dr. Broomfield talking about child rearing and corporal discipline. Can we call it that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that whole thing, with a compliant child, spanking is not necessary most often. Very few, if any, spankings are needed. But if you have a strong-willed child, I was a strong-willed child, not horrific, but definitely strong-willed. I have not forgotten what I was like as a child. I remember having thoughts. I don't remember my whole childhood, but I remember aspects of my childhood better than I remember yesterday. Okay?
Oh, wow, yeah, long-term memory, right?
Yeah, I remember sitting in first grade, and Mrs. Hildreth, my first grade teacher, talking about when we're more mature. And I remember thinking about that word the rest of the day. what is mature? What is mature? How can I be more mature than I am right now? I mean, I couldn't believe it. Other people may change, but I don't need to change. I couldn't imagine becoming more mature than I was at 6. I really couldn't. It really baffled me that they had to be wrong. I could not accept that I would change over time, because how can I not be me, or how can I be more than I am? And I pushed my parents to. I wanted to know where the limits were. I remember thinking how cool it would be to get my way all the time, and how nice it would be maybe to be without parents, because then I would have freedom. And how much I would like that.
Right.
Okay. Now the thing was, the discipline employed at that time included a variety of corporal punishments. I remember I robbed a store once when I was about 5.
5.
And a friend of mine promised that he would take me to the store. We had a corner store back then. There were corner stores in neighborhoods.
Oh, absolutely.
He took me to the corner store and bought himself an ice cream sandwich. And he didn't have enough for me, so he just bought himself one and walked out. And I felt so jilted that I went over there, grabbed one, and ran out of the store. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Well, as I approached the house, I saw my mother standing in front of the house with a switch in her hand.
What is a switch, for those who may not know?
A small tree. And
biblically known as a rod.
Yes, biblically known as a rod. Yes. It wasn't real thick, but it was quite effective because, she used it up on my backside there, outside. And then after getting a stinging reminder as to how bad that was, and of course it reinforced my conscience, it was a bad thing, because I remember my heart racing a mile a minute when I took that ice cream sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, that spanking really reinforced I had crossed the line. Then she made me go back to the store owner and apologize and pay for it.
Yes.
And I never robbed a store again in my life after that experience. They say spanking doesn't work. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, it really does work. It very much reinforced that particular value in spades. Okay.
It certainly did. Time has just evaporated. Dr. Guy, thank you for being that transparent. And the reality of it is, we can alter behavior through discipline, can we not?
Oh, yeah.
Can you join us tomorrow?
Sure can.
All right, until then.